I never imagined I'd find spike strips blocking my sister's driveway, nor did I expect the HOA president responsible to turn ghostly white when I revealed my job. How would this neighborhood tyrant react when she realized she'd trapped the car of a county prosecutor's niece who urgently needed her insulin? Slamming my car door, I stared in disbelief. A woman with impeccably styled silver hair was snapping photos of my sister's rose bushes, not casual snapshots, but meticulous shots, measuring tape in hand, documenting every inch with unsettling precision. "Excuse me," I called, crossing the neatly trimmed lawn. "Can I help you with something?" She barely looked up. "These rose bushes are 3 inches over regulation height," she replied, her tone dripping with the authority of someone enforcing a global treaty rather than garden rules. Clearing my throat, I said, "I'm Ethan, Lisa's brother." "And you are?" "Margaret Voss, Pinewood Estates HOA Compliance Committee," she declared, each word sounding like a royal decree. "Your sisters received 2 warnings about these bushes. Documentation is the next step before fines. Lisa had warned me the neighborhood rules were strict when she bought this place 3 months ago, but this level of scrutiny seemed absurd. My sister's a single mom working 60-hour weeks as a nurse," I said evenly. "She barely has time to rest, let alone trim bushes to the exact inch." Margaret's face remained stone-cold. "Rules are rules. They protect our property values. Everyone signed the same agreement." "Uncle Ethan," a small voice shouted. My niece, Sophie, bolted down the porch steps, braids flying as she ran to me with open arms. At 9, she was why Lisa stretched her budget for this house: good schools, safe streets, kids to play with. I scooped her up, aware of Margaret's eyes tracking us like she was filing a mental report. "Is that lady taking pictures of our flowers again?" Sophie whispered. "Again." The word lingered. "Why don't you tell your mom I'm here?" I suggested, setting her down. She darted back inside, throwing nervous glances over her shoulder. Margaret pocketed her phone. "New residents often struggle with compliance. That's why we document everything. Your sister's trash cans were recyclable from the street Tuesday. Her daughter's bike was left out overnight last week. And now these bushes, 3 violations in a month, trigger escalated enforcement." Her tone sent a chill down my spine. As a county prosecutor, I dealt with real criminals daily, yet this woman's bureaucratic bullying irked me more than some felons I'd locked up. "I'll let Lisa know about the bushes," I said, aiming to end it. Margaret's thin smile didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, she knows. Diane spoke to her yesterday." The name hit hard. Lisa had mentioned Diane Kessler, the HOA president who'd turned a once reasonable association into what she called a dictatorship with prettier lawns over the past 5 years. I thanked Margaret for her diligence and went inside. Lisa was unpacking groceries, scrubs slung over a chair, fresh off a hospital shift. "Met the Bush Patrol, huh?" she said with a weary grin. "Is it always like this?" I asked. She lowered her voice, glancing towards Sophie in the leave-viewing room. "It's gotten worse. Last week, they measured my grass while I was at work, fined me due lost $75 for it being half an inch too tall." She pulled a stack of notices from a drawer. Citations for everything: the mailbox color, which was here when I moved in, to Sophie's chalk drawings on our driveway. Flipping through the papers, my prosecutor's instincts kicked in. Some cited rules weren't in the HOA handbook Lisa showed me. Others were vaguely worded, ripe for selective enforcement. "Have you talked to neighbors?" I asked. She nodded. "The Garcias next door got fined for a basketball hoop. The Clarks across the street had to ditch their bird feeder. But the homes on Maple Drive, where Diane and her cronies live, have all that and more." "That's not right," I said, my sense of fairness prickling. "It gets worse," Lisa whispered. "Dr. Clark told me Diane's husband owns the landscaping company that snags all HOA contracts. Guess who you're forced to hire for yard violations?" Sophie dashed in. "Uncle Ethan, can we get ice cream?" "After dinner, kiddo," Lisa said. "Go wash up." Once Sophie left, Lisa added, "Diane drives around, snapping photos, delivering notices in person. It's like she loves catching people." I pulled out my phone, jotting notes. "Mind if I photograph these notices?" "Go ahead," Lisa sighed. "But what's the point?" "The HOA agreement gives them tons of power." "Power? Yes," I said, "but not limitless power. Years of prosecuting taught me bullies thrive in gray areas, banking on fear to silence pushback." As Lisa cooked, I stepped outside to call a real estate law colleague. The chat confirmed my hunch. HOAs have authority, but selective enforcement or profiteering crosses lines. I was about to head back and when a white SUV with Pinewood Estates HOA on the door rolled up. A tall woman with a blonde bob and designer sunglasses stepped out, clipboard in hand. I knew instantly, Diane Kessler. She scanned the property with a hawkish eye, cataloging every flaw. "Can I help you?" I asked, blocking her path. She sized me up. "I'm Diane Kessler, HOA president. I need to speak to Lisa Bennett about multiple compliance issues. My sister just finished a 12-hour shift saving lives," I said, keeping my tone civil despite rising irritation. "It can wait until tomorrow." Diane's lips tightened into a fake smile. "Rules don't take breaks." "Who are you?" "Ethan Bennett, Lisa's brother." Something flickered in her eyes recognition. "Maybe." "Bennett?" "The attorney." I nodded, curious how she knew. Her demeanor shifted subtly. "Well, Mr. Bennett, perhaps you can remind your sister that homeowner agreements are binding contracts. Her violations are a serious concern." From inside, Sophie's laughter drifted out as she helped Lisa with dinner, a normal moment in a home they'd fought to build. The contrast to Diane's icy formality steeled me. "I know contracts well," I replied. "I also understand harassment, selective enforcement, and conflicts of interest, topics I find fascinating in my work." Diane's smile vanished. "Is that a threat?" "Not at all. Just sharing my professional interests," I said, glancing at my watch. "Now, excuse me, I'm having dinner with my family. Leave any notices in the mailbox." As I turned, Diane called, "This isn't over, Mr. Bennett. Your sister signed the agreement. She'll comply or face consequences." I paused, but didn't look back. "Good evening, Ms. Kessler." I didn't tell Lisa about it, had enough on her plate. But as we ate, watching Sophie chatter about her science project, I vowed to dig into this HOA mess. Something was off in Pinewood Estates, and Lisa's troubles felt like the tip of a bigger iceberg. I didn't yet know how fast things would spiral or how ruthless an HOA president with unchecked power could be. "They fined me due law $500 for Sophie's chalk drawings." Lisa's voice trembled over the phone, a mix of fury and disbelief. I gripped my coffee mug tighter, pausing in my office at the county prosecutor's building. "What? When?" I asked, already rescheduling my afternoon. "Diane Kessler knocked on my door at 7 a.m., Lisa said. Handed me an envelope with photos of Sophie's hopscotch and butterflies from yesterday, called it soil pollution, right in front of her." Sophie's sobs echoed in the background, and my jaw clenched. She made Sophie cry? Told her kids who can't follow rules shouldn't play outside. Sophie's crushed, thinks she's a monster. I checked my watch, 10:30. Court at 11, but I'd sit Lisa after. Save everything, the notice, photos, all of it. Don't pay yet. I'll be there by 1. After a quick drug case plea in court, I drove to Pinewood Estates. The neighborhood looked pristine, manicured lawns, uniform mailboxes, no toys in sight, but now it felt oppressive, not proud. Lisa met me at the door, still in scrubs, eyes red but resolute. "Look at this," she said, handing me the notice. On official HOA letterhead with a gold seal, it cited Section 7.4, no defacement of community property, fining her due law $500, plus due law $50 daily for noncompliance. The photos showed Sophie's colorful driveway are not even on public pavement. "This is insane," I muttered. "Anyone else get this?" "Maria next door did too. Her kids were drawing with Sophie," Lisa said, leading me to the kitchen. She'd laid out every HOA notice since moving in. "I started asking around after you left. Nearly every family with kids has been hit. Ois, hoops, chalk, even birthday decor up too long." I sorted the pile, spotting a pattern. Kid-free homes, especially on Maple Drive where the board lived, had fewer citations. Lisa slid a notebook over. "I've tracked it. 23 citations for me in 3 months. The Johnsons across the street got 4 in years." Sophie shuffled in, eyes down. "Hey, kiddo," I said softly. "Heard about your chalk art." She shrugged, fighting tears. "Ms. Diane said I ruined everything." My chest tightened. "Can I see your drawings before they fade?" She hesitated, then nodded. "The sprinklers are washing them away." Outside, faint butterflies and flowers lingered on the driveway, harmless, temporary, a kid's joy. A car slowed. A woman I didn't know snapped photos, then sped off when I stared. "That's Mrs. Patel from compliance," Sophie said casually. "She's always taking pictures." The normalcy in her voice unnerved me. I knelt. Sophie, chalk drawings are fine, they wash off. You did nothing wrong. Her face lifted slightly. Really? Really? Now, go grab your science project. Your mom said it's a solar system. Once she was inside, I turned to Lisa. This isn't enforcement, it's harassment. I know, she sighed, but I signed the agreement. They can enforce rules. Not selectively, I shot back. Or through harassment. And where's the fine money going? I photographed the notice and drawings. When's the next HOA meeting? Tonight, 7 p.m., Community Center, Lisa said, brushing back her hair. I was going to skip it every time I speak. Diane finds a new violation. I'll go with you, I decided. I want to see this in action. Relief flashed across her face. That'd be great. Sophie's got a play date at the Garcias anyway. I spent the afternoon reviewing the HOA bylaws Lisa got when she bought the house. The rules were standard home colors, renovations, upkeep, but Lisa's violations cited non-existent sections or stretched vague terms. I'd seen this before, confusion as a weapon, betting people won't fight back. At 6:45, we walked to the community center. Outside, two groups emerged, hushed residents in a cluster, and a polished clique board members striding in without a glance. They vote as a block, Lisa whispered. Inside, Diane sat center at the board table, flanked by Margaret Voss, her husband Tom, the treasurer, a sour-faced woman, and a jittery young guy. Diane, in a blazer, oozed control. No recording meetings, she announced at 7 p.m. Sharp. 2-minute limit for comments at the end. I noted these rules weren't in the bylaws. The meeting ran like clockwork, glowing reports, vague finances, new restrictions, no decorations before mid-December, no overnight guest parking, no deliveries past 5 p.m. Diane squashed questions, and the board rubber-stamped everything. During comments, residents raised selective enforcement and steep fines. Diane brushed them off. Rules are equal, property values matter. When Lisa stood about the chalk fine, Diane cut her off. Your violations documented. MS. Bennett. Next. I stood. I'd like to address selective enforcement. Diane's eyes narrowed. And you are? Ethan Bennett, attorney, here for my sister and others. Murmurs rippled. This is an internal matter, Diane snapped. Not as her lawyer, I clarified. As family with expertise. She relented. 2 minutes. I outlined the pattern-targeted citations, fake rules, no financial clarity, ending with a bylaws-backed request for 3 years of financials. Diane's smile stayed, but her grip on her pen tightened. We'll consider it, she said. After, residents approached us, sharing stories. Dr. Clark, a former board member, pulled me aside. Be careful. I quit when I saw the financial shift. Landscaping costs tripled after Tom's company took over. Special funds vanished into vague accounts. It's legalish, but shady. Diane and Tom interrupted. HOA matters stay internal, she said sweetly, her eyes ice. Tom added bluntly. If your sister can't handle our standards, maybe she doesn't belong. Before I could reply, Lisa's phone rang. Her face drained. What? You're sure? She hung up. Maria says orange cones are blocking my driveway. Sophie can't get home. She needs her insulin. Diane smiled. Unpaid violations trigger escalation. We raced out, Tom yelling. Cones stay till payment's full. At Lisa's, not just cones, but spike strips block the drive. Sophie peered out, clutching her insulin kit, terrified.